Okay, the purpose of today is to give you a little bit of a view on what is it that we are focusing on now, particularly for the next year, and what is it that I'm focused on. So I thought I'd give you a little bit of that. The Create Hope in the World is the Rotary International theme for the year. So I'll be talking about that a little bit more. So about me personally, it's been 12 years since I did a 220. So grew up in Arvada, went to school in Boulder, at one of the other universities there that we can't talk about. Moved up to Fort Collins right after I graduated for work for Hewlett-Packard. And me and my family spent 2.5 years in Melbourne, Australia, which is why I made darn sure that I would go to the convention this year, because I had a chance to not only visit my business partners who were there, but also visit friends that we had lived with back in the mid-90s. On the career side, started out as an engineer, hardware, software, moved into management, and since 2009, I've been doing professional business coaching. I've done a lot of leading volunteer groups, a lot through church. I've led a Gregorian chant choir. I'm currently leading the handbell choir over at St. Joseph's, and also volunteer groups in my coaching work as well. And I've been a member of this club and member of Rotary since 2011. I actually joined Rotary on my birthday that year. The picture in the upper right is my family plus my mom. This was sort of the last picture that we took before she died, because it was, she didn't come down with COVID, but she was isolated because of COVID in her assisted living center, and she couldn't take that. So she died about 6 months later. But that's my wife, Nancy, in front, and my daughter, Lisa, and my son, Brian. The 6 kids down in the lower right, the 2 boys are my brothers. The 3 girls are my cousins. Our parents moved out from Chicago back in 1950, I believe. And so we grew up very close with our cousins and had a lot of fun with that. We actually got together a few years ago and recreated this scene in the same order, but since it was the middle of summer, we didn't wear our winter coats. Okay, so what's the context of our club? Well, our membership is down. It used to be a high of 108. We are down to 79. We did lose the number of our key activities, including the Ale Trail and Foodie Trail. We've been working on replacing our cornhole. Putnam sort of fell apart during the pandemic because they wouldn't allow us physically to come in the school. And so there have been a few activities, but not nearly as much as we had done previously. And of course, our evening group has disbanded, you know about that. The good news is that there still is an evening group in town, the one that's a spinoff of the downtown club. So that's good. And we're doing things like rebuilding Teacher of the Year, Teacher of the Month, all of that. Great stuff going on there, really pulling together some of our programs now. Some great, exciting new possibilities that I'm so thrilled about. So we've been talking about doing the pickleball tournament, nominally penciled in for October, November. We have the lunch fund that was created when we had to raise our dues. And so we're working on how can we make more use of that to help people who are struggling. And that's connected with the Rotary Cares Committee that Wynn talked about a few weeks ago. And we've been kicking out around the idea of a duck race. So it's neat to see some of these things, but I don't want it to feel like all we're doing is stopping things and starting things. There's actually a million things that we're continuing. I ran out of room here. So we're doing our community grants, we're doing purple pins, holiday baskets, international service, all of this great stuff that we continue to do, and which benefits our members, benefits our community, and benefits our world. So I just wanted to give you the quick view on what the financial situation looks like. This is our budget for the coming year, our current year now. But I had 4 graphs here, but I wanted to show you the structure first. On the left side, we have our operations. So those are things that we do that benefits us, but doesn't necessarily directly benefit the community. And then our charitable side is what's focused on outward of benefiting the community. So $80,000 on operations and $43,000 on the charitable side. So I won't go all through the details, but as you would expect, the bulk of our income comes from our member dues, and 2/3 of that goes to the hotels. And so we have to be conscious of that. Gives us relatively little flexibility. Our club pays Rotary dues and district dues through our quarterly dues that we take. Many clubs do not do it that way. They have you pay the district or pay Rotary International as a separate thing, but we choose to combine that together. On the charitable side, 56% of that comes from our member dues, which is very cool. Our club is so generous, it's unbelievable. 7% comes from grants. In our case, that's for this year, that's district grants. We do not have anything budget yet for Rotary International grants. We could create something if we wanted to. And then I split apart the internal fundraisers from the external fundraisers. So internal are where we are passing the hat and doing fines so that we can have our members contribute more. External fundraisers are things we do like Peach Festival or Pickleball, where it's primarily about how do we tap more resources out there in the community. And then where does the money go? Well, half of it goes to our local community, 17% to the RI Foundation, and another 17% to build up our own Foothills Foundation. That's what FH stands for. Okay, and then 7% are international and 10% on youth. Okay, so the lights shut off, that was weird. So what I'm focused on, I've got some special priority areas. First, rebuilding membership after the pandemic. Now, clubs exist at all sizes. We're actually one of the larger clubs. You know, the average club in our district is probably like 25 or 30 members, something like that. So, you know, we're reasonably large that way, but we have big ambitions, and we choose to have meetings at a hotel, which costs more than average. And so we've got a reasonably high cost structure as a result of that. And so the more members we have, the more we can do what we want to do, because we want to be out there benefiting the community. So that's what rebuilding his membership is about, but also retention and engagement. All right. So I'm working a lot with Deems and Wynn on how do we pull this together. We're doing already a whole lot of stuff. Second, fundraising, so that we can tap resources that are outside this room. You know, we've got a limit to how much money we can put on the table and how much effort. And so if we can go and work with partners, if we can do some external fundraising, that helps us to, you know, double, triple our resources. This became very apparent when we went and did the fundraiser for Food Bank pop-up pantry back in 2020, right? We were shut down because of the pandemic. And we said, what can we do? All of our activities are dead. We can't go out and do anything. We have to be sitting at home. And during that summer, in just I think, 3 months, we not only contributed very generously from our members, but also then we doubled that with a district grant. We doubled that yet again with a community foundation grant. We've doubled that yet again with a Rotary International grant, and we donated close to $80,000 in just a few months. That was phenomenal. So this is what it means to tap other people's resources. Okay, and then mental health, I'll talk about that in a sec. It is the Rotary theme for the year, and I'll let Gordon, our new Rotary International president, talk about what that means. But it's also a huge problem here in our community. So let's hear from Gordon.
Earlier this week, during my opening speech, I asked for Rotary to place a new emphasis on taking care of our fellow members and those in our communities, especially in regard to our mental health. I also promised to explain why mental health was such an important topic for me. And so this morning, I would like to share that why. And to do so, I want to tell you about Ian. Like me, Ian came from Edinburgh. He was born in 1960, which made him 3 years younger than me, but we attended the same school, the Royal High School. Ian grew up in a loving, caring family with a single sibling, his mother and father instilling in their children a good sense of values. He grew up happy. Ian developed many interests down the years that allowed him to make a large circle of friends, and he was always the life and soul of the party. He would often join me and other friends at rugby matches, watching Scotland play and frequently lose to England and Wales in particular. Now, on leaving school, Ian studied computer science at Heriot-Watt University in Scotland. And as an outstanding student in his chosen field, he was in great demand from potential employers as he approached graduation. Like many young Scots before him, Ian left Scotland to work and joined STC in Stevenage, close to London, England. I saw rather less of Ian once he moved away from Scotland, but we were regularly in touch and always caught up whenever he came back to Edinburgh to visit his parents. Ian didn't just have an active social life. He was a great success professionally as well. He won several computer industry awards as his expertise in the field was recognised. When he first relocated to England from Scotland, Ian joined and was an active member of the Rotaract Club of Hitchin. And it was through Rotaract that he met and fell in love with Jean, a very English girl with a very Scottish name. Heather and I were at their wedding in 1989, and a great time was had by all, especially by our daughters, Sarah and Rebecca, who at the age of 5 and 3 were asked to be flower girls. Ian's career continued to flourish as his talent was recognised on a wider scale. He and Jean had 2 delightful children, Lucy and Jamie, and they were the happiest of families, enjoying life to the fullest with a beautiful home in Buckinghamshire, not far from London, and a lifestyle to match. Heather and I, along with our daughters Sarah and Rebecca, would often see them when they visited Scotland, and we would often visit them at their home in England. But somehow, sometime, somewhere along the way, something changed for Ian, and he began to suffer from poor mental health. That black dog of depression, first described by Sir Winston Churchill, gradually overtook the things he once loved, the person he once recognised in the mirror, the life he once lived. It followed him around like a shadow, like a large, lumbering shadow, loyal as a canine. Nobody knew it, not Jean, his wife, nor his family, nor his friends. Like many sufferers of poor mental health, Ian concealed it so very well. I guess it was for fear of being seen as weak, or for fear of being judged, or even for fear of being rejected. Eventually, after suffering in silence for who knows how long, it all became too much for Ian. And on the 8th of February 2014, at the age of 53, while attending a business conference in San Diego, California, Ian took his own life, leaving behind him Jean, Lucy and Jamie, then in their teens, an extended family and a large circle of friends whose lives were changed forever, and who continue to this day to ask themselves the questions: why? What signs did we miss? How much more could we have done? I believe that one of the main reasons Ian and so many others like him reached the point he did was that mental health remains such a taboo subject, that mental health supplies remain very, very short, that people do not reach out to each other and ask the question, how are you? Or perhaps, to be more accurate, how are you really? I believe that we in Rotary have a big part to play in the de-stigmatization of mental health, in learning how to prevent issues while also making mental health services more available, and by being there for one another, for asking that question, how are you really? And that is why I want us to prioritise mental health during 2023-24 and hopefully beyond. But before I finish, there is one more thing I want to tell you about Ian. Ian was my brother, my only brother. And believe me, I don't tell you that to seek your sympathy, but to merely illustrate that any one of us can be affected by the scourge of poor mental health. Any one of us can be left seeking answers to the questions: why? What signs did we miss? What more could we have done?
It's a sobering message, and it's something that we have right here in our own community. I have been touched by mental health issues in my own family, and I know that at least half the people in this room have in some way as well. So this is not something that is a far away issue. It's something that we can actually address. So as you know, Michael Allen is a member of our club, and he heads up Summit Stone Health Partners. He was hoping to be here today, but he was having big migraine issues and had to check out. So we'll bring him back for a few minutes to talk about what are they doing at Summit Stone. They are opening up a new facility on South Taft Hill, Trilby, approximately down there. I hear that next month they will get the certificate of occupancy, and then they will open for business on December 2nd. And so we have an opportunity. We can get a nice tour through there. He would love to host us to have a lunch there. So we're working on this. All right. Let me give you an overview of what our organization looks like. I'll go ahead and publish this real soon. It's still undergoing some updates, but I wanted to give you a little view of how to read this thing, because honestly, when I joined our club, I found this one of the most confusing things because it doesn't look like a normal org chart that I had ever seen. So We have the officers in the club in the upper left. We have the board of directors in the upper right. And then what I did this year is I split the operations part of our club and the charitable side. I found this really, really useful when doing the budgeting. And it turns out that the org chart can be done the same way. So under operations, we've got our club service, which is not only logistics, but also how do we run our club? What are the things that we need to do every week, every month? We have a finance committee, of course, we have a membership committee, and we have PR. And then on the charitable side, we have fundraising. How do we get money coming in? I identified that as its own column this year because I wanted to put more emphasis on it. And then what do we do with our own foundation and with the Rotary International Foundation? And then community and international service and youth service. So yeah, we can kind of read it. There will be a test. So I'll go ahead and send us out via Club Runner so that you can have a chance to look at it. Not everything is filled in. There are places where we definitely need people to step up, places where things are still being defined, like over in the membership column there. Those things exist. There's a lot of activity going on. We don't necessarily have leaders identified for each of those areas. So we're working on it. Need somebody to take the lead on Slam and Famine. We could use that on RI grants, on Interact and Rotaract connections, things like that. So please step up and help out. It warms my heart that probably half our club is directly named on this chart. It would be great if we could get even more. Okay, so in my mind, this is how things flow. We do service, and when we do service, then that improves lives. When we improve lives, that creates hope in the world, which fortunately happens to be the theme of the year, and that builds peace. The peace is an interesting one because I hadn't spent much attention on it until the RI convention, that there's actually so much that ties to the fact that we Rotary are creating peace. We are building peace. We have so much stuff going on, and we in this club are building peace in our community and in our world. That really is the ultimate thing that Rotary does, is just building a more peaceful and prosperous world. Okay, we have a few minutes. I would like some table conversation. I have 2 questions here. So it'll be about 3 minutes apiece. The first question, what would make this an outstanding year for you? Okay, so talk amongst yourselves. Come up with your nice short list. What would make it outstanding? Okay, I'll let you continue the conversation into our second question, which is, what is the difference that you want this club to make? Okay, we're going to have to move down because I wanted to make sure that people have a chance to get into the next thing that they're doing today. And you're certainly welcome to sit around and have additional conversation, but I need to bring the meeting to a close. So, yeah, well, life's rough. So the action out of this, I would like to have people talk to me about this. Send me an email, have a phone conversation, grab me wherever you can catch me. Also, look at where is it that you would like to contribute in this club. Maybe it's on the org chart, maybe it's not. Maybe it's something else that we're doing or could be doing. So please put some thought into that. don't just take this away and say, well, that was entertaining, but now I've got to get back to real life here. This is real life. This is what makes a difference in our community.